sample presentation to you. And the story I use is Look, Born Wings of Valor by Molly Callaghan, a Canadian writer. And we will focus on these parts: the setting, the plot, and the characters. Yeah. And we look at the example, the pictures here, and we can see that the story took place in a small community, in a village of England in the early 20th century. And of course, it is in the rural area, remote area, and in a summer vacation. And the house is by the river, and there is a pasture, on the bank of the river where Luke spent his time with his dog every day. Each detail in the setting has some significance to the theme as well as to the understanding of the story. We see the rural area is the place where poor people were living, and of course that was the beginning of the industrialization, and Uncle Henry was one of the richest men in the village to have a sawmill, and he has some employees in his house, right? And the summer vacation, the summer is the hottest season in the year, and the summer is also the second stage in one's life. And the summer here connects with the boy's development in his thinking, his personality. In the river, the stream of river, right? The water brings some source of energy to our life, and the pasture here is the color that the pasture has is green, and green is the symbol of peace, let's say energy and motivation. Now look at the plot. The plot consists of 5 stages: the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. The exposition is the background information. You see, Luke is a boy of about 12 or 13 years old, and he has to live with his uncle, his aunt, because his father is seriously sick and he is dying. And before moving to live with his uncle and his aunt, he promised to his father that he would try to be like his uncle, because his uncle was a symbol of success. He was admired by a lot of people in the village. And the rising action, is that in the house with the aunt and the uncle, Luke is very lonely because he has no friends, no one to share his feelings with. And luckily he has a dog, whose name is Dan. And he considers Dan best friend. He shares all his feelings, his sadness, his sorrows with the dog, and the dog understands him a lot. But one day Uncle Henry discovered that the dog is blind in one eye, and he is so weak now. He cannot be used for hunting. He becomes so useless, but he eats a lot. For that reason, Uncle Henry replied to get rid of the dog. And one morning he asked Luke to ride his bicycle to the center town in order to buy him some cigars. And when he is away, his uncle asked Mr. Sam to row the dog into the river. And you see the water, the stream of water is so powerful that Luke is riding his bike back to town, but he has a kind of feeling that something bad is happening to his dog, and he was really reluctant, and he was true. Yeah, you see, he was true. The climax comes when he decides to drown himself into the river. Yeah, to jump into the river to save the dog. He you see, yeah, he tried his best, even though he cannot swim. He tried his best to save the dog by keeping the dog for a long time in the sunshine in order to warm the dog up. And after that, he didn't dare to come home with the dog because he knows that his uncle will be very angry with him because he didn't follow his uncle's guidance or intention. And he immediately thought of Mr. Kim, who is considered the very sensitive, very sensible, very intelligent, and very admirable person in the village. Yeah, and he came to Mr. Kim with all the incidents happening to him, and Mr. Kim understands Uncle Henry very well, and he suggested that Luke would watch the cows for him. Yeah, and in return, Luke will receive 75 cents a week. With that money, he would give to Uncle Henry, and Uncle Henry will allow him to keep the dog on the condition that he has money to give him every week. Yes. And the resolution, he listened and he took advice from Mr. Kim. He came to Uncle Henry with that proposition, and to his surprise, Uncle Henry agreed to let him keep the dog. Okay, so that is the all the incidents happening in the story according to the structure of the plot, the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. And next, the characters. You can see the diagram that shows you some central characters in the story. Luke, Baldwin, Mr. Kim, Uncle Henry, and Dan the dog. Right? You see, Uncle Henry is the antagonist. Luke is the protagonist because he is the central character of the story, and Uncle Henry is opposed to him, right? He doesn't want Luke to keep the dog. Luke wants to protect the dog, something like that. And it is very difficult for us to decide whether Mr. Kim is the protagonist or the antagonist, but he plays the role of the catalyst in the story. He helps Luke and Uncle Henry to bridge the gap between the two characters, and he gave advice to Luke, and finally he was succeeded. Here.